Hello everybody, Michelle Houghton here. I have a stamp that from Whimsy Stamps that I literally stamped up at least a year ago. Um, and then it went into my tub of stamps to do next for videotaping for you. And then life happened. And so it didn't get done. But I love the whole stamp set. I love the snowflakes. I love the little sentiments. I love this little bunny with a hat. And I think he might need to get done at some point too. But the reason I purchased it was this girl and the unicorn kind of trying to catch snowflakes on their tongue. So that is what I'm going to color up today. I honestly have no idea what paper I stamped this up on, so I can't give you that information. I'm sorry. And I haven't selected any colors, so see how unprepared I am for you today? So I thought we would kind of fly by the seat of our pants. I was thinking some RVs and some Vs, and then we'll use some cool grays on our unicorn friend and kind of go from there. But that's kind of where I'm at. Just kind of a fun, kind of cool, lovely image. So I'm thinking some of my favorites, kind of brighter RVs, are the RV6s. And then, but if I wanted to tone it down, the RV3s. But I'll pull these out to start. And then I've got the B6s, and those are kind of a violet-y color or tone. And then I might kind of pull out the go-to V series, except I'm missing one. Wonder if I tucked it somewhere to use on a project. Very good chance of that. I have no idea where it has gone. Oh, never mind. Got it. Okay. So I've got some B6s. I've got RV6s and an RV5 and Vs. 1, 2, 0, 4, and 1, 7. So we'll see how this goes. Again, I wish I could tell you. It's kind of a creamy, not totally sure, but we'll play with this a bit. So I'm going to start with some of the details that I think would be fun to have in the B6 range. And I'm going to keep it pretty loose today, laying down my B60 first. We're going to do their scars and her little hat. And then B63. And then kind of adding some shape to this guy, but it kind of tucks in a little bit closer. We know it's going to get darker coming out from under, again on hers, curving under against her. It might catch a little light out on that outer edge. And then coming up from the back of her head, just because the way she's tipped up and back. B66 is the next round. It's a big jump. So I'm hoping that ink stays a little bit wet. What I'm saying here is that it's coming out. It tucks in kind of closer to his body, and then it pops out again before it rolls under. That's why you're seeing that little strip of light kind of right in here. That's where that kind of bend comes back up and over. This part is the hardest part to me because the artist has flattened it out and it's like we're seeing it completely flat. So it's a little hard to, same over here, but I figure it curves back in towards her body, comes out from under the other piece. So I'm going with the kind of simplest answer. I'm going to leave her a little bit lighter in general, I think. So even though it's the same color combo, it's not necessarily going to get as dark. Keep that really simple back there. We're going to need to definitely blend those together, but again, I'm not looking for a totally smooth blend here. So we'll see how it goes. I felt like when I pulled this back out of the envelope, so what I'll do, this is me, is I'm not a great stamper, and so I think it does take me a little bit longer. I will sit and stamp like a whole set of images, like all different companies, all different things I know I want to color up. When I get them, I'll kind of have this stack of new stamps and I'll stamp them all at once. So I literally will sit and do at least like 10 or 12 different stamps that I come in and stamp up. And then I tuck the image into the sleeve with the stamp and put it in this little section that I know these are ones I haven't colored yet. So they'd be great options for Copic in the craft room for new techniques and just for fun coloring. We do a lot of that recently. And so when I came back to this one, it literally has been a year. And because by the time I had time to do some coloring, it was already wrapped back around to summer. And honestly, I wasn't in the mood for snowflakes. I was having too much fun in the sun. Moving back down to my B60, hitting these highlights. And so I wish I could tell you, because I always do like to be able to tell you kind of what I'm coloring on and what I'm using. But in this case, I don't think I can do that confidently. It definitely has a creamier color to it. Much creamier than what I am used to coloring on. So I'm not sure if this was something that someone gave me to try. If it is, it's working really well, so I'll need to go back through my stash and see if I can figure out what it is. So I think I'm going to aim for her little sweater next, and I'm actually going to do that the bright pink. So this is a girl who loves color, and I think because this is going so dark, I'm actually going to start with the darker color first. And I'm thinking I'm going to kind of start with even more kind of almost dotted. And then I'll come in with the next color and just dot forward with that. So that was, sorry, RV66. This is RV55. This one ends up being a nice mid-tone, I think. And then you're going to see the RV63. I think it's 63. That's what I'm going to end with. And if I want to, yeah, RV63. And if I want to accentuate this texture, I can do that as well. She's pretty tiny, so you could do kind of that wash rag technique on this. This is actually given it already, kind of that mottled effect. I think you guys can see that. I really do like it doesn't take a whole lot, but you could do kind of a colorless blender back a little bit into this dark area, but I don't know that it needs it. It gives us that sense of texture just enough. And I think, I'm wondering, of course I don't really, I'm gonna do this in the top little corner here. If I used, thinking this will work though. Yeah, so we're gonna do a really fun kind of flowy skirt on her. And I'm gonna use the RV63 to start, and we're gonna go ahead and then I'm gonna use 2 more colors, but these are gonna be violets to kind of add to that kind of almost chiffon or tulle feel, or that's at least my goal. We'll see how that, you see it in your head and you're like, ooh, that'd be pretty, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So what I'm doing is long skinny flicks from the waistband out, and I'm trying to work around these little shapes. And then I'll do just like I do on here. I'm going to come from the bottom up a few times. I'm going to try to hit some of those little indents a little bit more, so we've got where the fabric is kind of creasing in on itself. And then, yeah, liking that already. And then I'm going to use, also use a V04. Just like here, as I get darker, I'm going to use fewer flicks. There we go. Yep. Now for me, I love this. It's just enough. The colors are close enough together that they kind of bled together as I was working. Now, just like when I kind of teach people hair, if this is too much kind of streakiness for you, you can see your flicks too much, one super, super light wash of your lightest color, that RV63, you could go over that and soften that. I am not going to do that. Sorry guys, you do not get to see that sample today. I'm debating, because she has these cute, she's got her legs folded under her. We've got mittens and we've got legs, and my guess is because of the weather she's got tights on. So the question would be what color on the tights and the boots and the mittens. And the mittens to me is kind of an easy one. I think those are definitely going to be the B6s again. So very easy. That mid-tone and the lightest. And then I'm thinking I might even do some dots of the mid-tone and the lightest on the pom-pom of her hat. There we go. Obviously we have her hair and skin left too. I'm kind of doing the fun color part first today. Did you notice? I wanted to play with color. And then, let's see. Both of them have their tongues out. I'm going to say E04 for both little tongues. And I'm going to say cool grays for our unicorn. I always feel like unicorns have this feel of almost being kind of silver white. And then I'm not sure, I mean, obviously now we have unicorns with rainbow hair and manes and tails. So I'll have to kind of think, not sure on his mane and tail. I'm thinking though I might need to hit his, sorry, losing track of thought. I might need to hit his hooves and a couple little details on her too with a multi-liner. I feel like they got really faded, and I think that's not so much the timing issue as my stamping issues, because I just am not always the best at that. So C3, limited use here. I want him to stay pretty light, but down in the crease right next to this hind leg, and obviously this is a position you would not see a horse in, so we can't necessarily look this up, but I'm going to give us some guesses of deeper areas back underneath his mane. All right, this will work though, huh? Just some little feel to it. Maybe we do the same with her tights. Maybe they stay white. All right. And then C1. And Color of Splendor. Pretty easy. Just those little tiny touches. I definitely think I need some Y28. This is one of the markers I think they actually should change the cap color on. Anybody else? I actually use this color a ton, so I don't think it's, but the fact that it has kind of a metallic sheen to it, and I don't know if you could see that, what I did with that. I did kind of like little curves. I did 1, 2, 3, and then the tip. The goal is to make it look like it's that spiral horn. So that was Y28. This is Y21. Okay. Okay. And I could go back, and you could do it to white or color the paper. It's so tiny. I just want to have that little bit of a spiral feel to it. That's just enough to kind of give it that hint of it. Still not confident here what to do with that mane. We could do it similar to her skirt for fun, that they're really matchy-matchy, but that it has kind of those different tones to it. Why don't we do that? Okay. So I'm going to leave it even more streaky than the skirt. This is the first color, the RV63. So I'm going to use just little pieces of it. And then I'm also going to do the V12 and the V14. And again, there's not a right or a wrong way to put it because of the way this has been drawn. You could literally, I'm not trying to go in and do like wavy hair that has darker underneath or closer to the unicorn. I'm truly just going in and doing more like chunks of hair. So it makes it fun and easy to color. Yay, yay. Who doesn't like that? I'm going to put a little bit, since I've already got it out, I think I'm going to put a little bit of that pink on the inside of his ear. Not sure why it would be a he, but there you go. Boot. I know it's funny, but we've got to throw some color on there, so I'm going to leave her in little brown boots. And maybe we'll use a similar combo on her hair. I'm a firm believer in limited color palettes. So I'll show you here at the end how many markers. I'll try to remember to show you how many markers I have spewed about my table now. It's a lot, but I could have done different colors on everything. And I try to limit that. I just feel like it gets so overwhelming in an image, and I feel like it actually helps to have it simplified a bit. So hair, I'm gonna go switch gears here. I'm gonna grab a YR, but I'm gonna use what I already have out too. So this is another favorite color of mine. It's YR31, and this is going to be the base of her hair. It's a yellow red, so it has blonde tones to it, but it also has red, yellow red. So you get both, and a lot of times brunettes have those tints of both in their hair. So for me, it becomes one of the colors that I like using. E33, which is what we used on the boots. And again, there's so much detail already here. It's hard to, I'm just flicking down, flicking up. I'm not trying to accentuate so much. You could go into these waves. The artist has actually shown us that you can. So you could kind of come from either end, they've kind of already accentuated the dark versus the light. Coming out from underneath the scarf, a little bit less with the R35. Just enough. Yep, I like that. Face, and then we have to figure out background. Let's keep her pretty light. So one of the ones, I don't know what this looks like. I found, every once in a while I find colors and I'm like, what does this look like on this paper? I want to see. So I'm playing with a little bit of some R's. I'm curious what this one, it's pretty peachy. Not sure. Like that's too dark. But this might work. Okay. This is a super light. This is not realistic skin. This is an R000, so it goes very pale. And then R11, give her a little tiny bit of shape. And then RV42, I'm going to bring that in on her little cheek. This is super subtle, so I will do my best to make sure you guys can see it. So we've got a touch of shading under her nose, came in from her cheek, came out a little bit further under her cheekbone, and then we pinked up the cheek area to kind of get it rosy. The shading also came kind of in that dip right below the tongue, kind of under her chin, like in the middle of her chin. Anyway, Very subtle, very sweet, just enough. So then I think it'd be fun to be able to see the snow. So I'm thinking I don't necessarily want to go dark, but I am thinking it'd be fun to go darker than like your bright blue that we usually do. Like, I'm not looking for a BG 000 sky. My friend would laugh at me saying that because that's what she and her family now calls our standard BG 000. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm thinking of something a little more subtle, more like kind of, ooh, that's really dark. So this has got a little bit of gray in it. It's a B41. So here's the trick. I do want to do kind of a little bit of a kind of rolling hill behind them, but I've got to keep their tongues up in that sky area if we want to see snowflakes getting close or even landing on them. So I don't necessarily need to go huge. This is a full card front, this piece of paper, and I know I'm going to trim it down to create a card. So I'm going to kind of start in one upper corner. This is as high as I'm going. I could go a little bit higher. I am using the broad nib and I am circling. For me, that is the way I get the nicest smooth coloring. You can do this however you want, but you're going to have to cover the area at least each area at least 2 or 3 times and kind of keep it moving. All right. So that's pretty smooth. Got a little snowy hill behind him. So I think the only thing we need to do, you can leave that snowy area underneath them just completely blank, but I feel like it looks like they're floating a bit. So I think we do need to add a little bit of cast shadow, a little kind of action, or show that they've got something underneath them. I am curious a little bit what's on the back end of her skirt. Like if there's a little, like if the skirt actually is these little pieces, like one of those ones that has little kind of handkerchief pieces of chiffon or something and has little ties or little fringes at the end. Does this make you curious? This makes me curious. The things I sit and wonder about while coloring. All right, and these guys are pretty close together, so their little shadows are gonna kind of merge in the middle. Now, you could argue that there's a break, because if they're sitting that close, chances are the shadows don't necessarily touch, but we're gonna say their shadows go a little bit beyond them, and then those dots kind of spread out. Now, the reason I'm doing dots, if you haven't seen me do this before, on this cast shadow is because they're sitting on snow, and so that's helping to add that texture of the ground underneath them. And if you didn't see what I was coloring with, it's a BV20. This is probably my most favorite snow color because when we hit it with a colorless blender, the violet and the blue kind of separate in there, and we end up with these nice tones of blues and violets kind of fading into white, which to me is very snow-like. So we're going to give them a few hints along some little places in the snow. Break that up a little bit. Where we've got some ripples in the snow hill. Now, the other thing about cast shadows is they tend to get darker as they get closer in to the object that is throwing the cast shadow. So I'm not going to do many. This will not take very long, but I've got BV 2-3, and that is going to come right up underneath the girl and right up underneath the unicorn. Doesn't really go beyond them. A little bit lighter out underneath the tail, just because it's that furry tail. And then I'm going to soften a few of those with my BV 2-0. I definitely want to do the little hoof. I'm not sure why that's bothering me so much on this one, but I need to go over that. That needs to be darker. And then colorless blender, I'm going to hit the edges of all of these little dots. And we'll see, because this is such a different paper and I don't know what I'm working with, it may or may not do the same effect. Colorless blender is another thing that as you start testing papers, you really want to test out, because the effect of it on each paper is slightly different. Some of them it'll just completely blow out the colors, others it just won't react the same. This actually isn't separating that as much. I still like the color, so I'm fine with that, but it's definitely not doing the separation of the blue and violet that I usually get. But that's okay. I still really like the image. So I want to show you really quickly if I can get them all in my hands. Maybe, maybe not. Ooh, I think I got it. This is the wad of Copics that we used for this image. Tons of them. I think they're all in the shot. Yes, there they are. All of these. So it's still a ton of markers, but really you can imagine I could do the scarf blue and the hat yellow and I try to narrow that down a little bit, and I like the feel of this a lot. So the last thing I'm going to do, and you could do this a bunch of different ways, but I feel like it needs some snowflakes. So shaking up my pen, and I said it a dozen times. This has to be darker. It's driving me bonkers. I think I started with one that's too tiny. All right. Those were the two things I felt like. There's a couple of things, you know, that you feel like you want them to be that crisp black. I feel better now. Whoosh. Okay. So multi-liner, not really needed, just because of my stamping issues, it was in this case. And then I've got a Posca white acrylic pen, and we're going to add some snowflakes. Now they're not going to be super bright because of the lighter sky. And you can do those even down across the image, right? Because if it's coming out of the sky, it's coming in front of them as well. One thing to be real careful about when you add like little snowflakes and things on an image, make sure you try to keep them random. Some of them are tighter together than others. And I'm going to go back and hit a couple of these a second time, brighten them up. All right. And then you could add like a little shimmer to those. You could actually do them with more of a sparkling, kind of sparkling medium instead. But there we go. Snowy. All right, snowflakes. So if I have a chance, I will turn this into a card. I love this sweet image. Again, this was from Whimsy Stamps. It's been around for a while. I hope you can still find it. Very sweet, and I love some of the other pieces to that stamp set. I think it's an overall stamp set that has a lot of uses and neat pieces to it. Thank you as always for joining me today. I hope you learned a thing or two, or at least enjoyed watching me color. Have a wonderful, happy day. Happy, colorful day to you all.